How do you keep your thoughts so clear and organized? Think more, consume less. Get good. No, I've never had issues with that. And I don't have any strategies to keep my thoughts clear and organized because the way I think is clear and organized. And I have no advice I could possibly offer, and I wish I could. But unfortunately, I was built like this. And I'm not trying to brag legitimately. I'm just saying that that is just how my brain works. So I could not tell you how to do it. I wish I could give good advice. Before I streamed, what did I do with all my time? I worked. And I had to keep organized for myself and for others. So I had to. What did I do before that? Also working, but just in different jobs where I also had to keep organized for other people, and I had a lot of responsibility. What was I doing before that? School. What did I do in school? I was in a billion clubs where I had to keep organized for other people. You know what I mean? So it's just time put in. Though I've always been that type of thinker, so it's not really, you know, there's a reason why I did that kind of stuff all the time. But put the hours in, man. Because while you think that something like keeping your thoughts organized is something that everyone should be able to do, I firmly believe that is something you develop over time. You're not born with, like, necessarily. Some people will be born with a little more of that method of thinking than others. Some people will be a bit more disorganized, a bit more, you know, point A to point B, tunnel visioned. But there are merits to both. Certain types of people will be good at certain things, and you just have to work with what you've got. And if you want to be different, you have to try to be different, try to think differently, which means training yourself, which is hard. Right? Being really active and mindful in your thinking and not just sitting around going, wow, I wish this would just happen. Know what I mean? So if you weren't raised a certain way, then that stuff's not inherently in you. You have to train it into yourself. It won't just happen. It's not a skill you unlock. It's a skill you develop. Does that make sense? It's not going to be innate in most people. Nothing's going to be innate in anyone, really, besides a few key things. Everything else you just have to learn. You were born with time management skills. I think that's down to discipline and how you were raised, to be honest. That plus if you've got something like ADHD, right? That's going to be the biggest factor, obviously, but it's how you're raised. When I have a friend who's late to everything, usually their parents are also late to everything. Stuff like that. Let's say that's your problem. You want to learn to be punctual. You can't just sit around and be like, wow, I wish I was punctual. Maybe I'll be punctual next time. And then change nothing. Go into your next appointment acting the same and be like, maybe I should just be earlier. There's no thought in that process that was, okay, how do I do this? How can I build this out for success? What can I change? There was no thoughtfulness there, right? So you have to approach simple like that thoughtfully. You have to change habits. Okay, I'm gonna set 3 alarms. Oh, I have to be somewhere at 8 p.m. I'm gonna set an alarm at 7:30, and when I hear that first alarm, I'm gonna do this. Then I'm gonna set an alarm at 7:40, and when I hear that second alarm, I need to swap and be doing this, right? Like, you'd have to really actively change. So if it's something like how do I keep my thoughts clear and organized, the way you think is probably not clear and organized. So you have to start, I don't know, making lists, using something like a Trello board, and doing that with everything in your life, even where you don't need it. So your brain gets used to organizing thoughts a certain way. Right? Look up cognitive behavioral therapy and methods for that and try to apply that to the things you want to fix in yourself. Does that make sense? Yeah, look up CBT. Do you not watch a lot of YouTube? I think that's how I lost my organized mind. No, I still watch a lot of YouTube. Don't blame anything like that. While that may have contributed, don't blame that necessarily. All it means is you've lost discipline, which means you are not inherently a person who stays disciplined easily. You need to actively make sure that you are disciplined. Does that make sense? So now think of it like that, because you already know what you need to do. You're like, yeah, I watch too much YouTube. I sit around and watch videos instead of doing what I'm supposed to do. And my thoughts are kind of scattered all the time because, you know, I start doing a thing and my brain is like, man, I should open that YouTube tab. You're just undisciplined. So instead of thinking about the thing that made you not disciplined or the thing that your brain is always thinking about, you're doing it, right? You're thinking about it. Instead, just look up ways to become more disciplined. Attack the root problem, not the thing that got you there. Is that a reward structure? Yeah. Some dude made a video that was like 1.5 minutes that popped off, and it was like how to stop procrastinating. Actually good advice. And the dude was like, you look at a big problem and you don't want to do it because the barrier to entry is so high, so make the problem smaller and then do it. And I was like, holy this guy's so right. This guy's got it. And he used a little visual. He had a brick wall. He had like his head on the left and a reward on the right, and then a brick wall in the middle. He's like, the brick wall is the thing you have to do. The reward is you getting the thing done. And he was like, it's hard to get over the brick wall. So what do? And he just drags it down and makes it smaller. He's like, attack a smaller problem. And for example, the example he used was he needed to study for an hour and he could never get himself to study for an hour. He'd procrastinate. So instead he'd commit to studying for 5 minutes. That was it. He'd be like, I made it smaller and it worked. And then I just keep studying. And I was like, holy. But that really simple little visual, I was like, you know what? It's like that with discipline too, right? You know what helps? I go clean something. If I have something that I need to do, like work-wise, that's on my computer, and I find myself starting to avoid it a little bit, I get up from my chair. I don't sit there and keep myself trying if it's just not working. I get up from my chair, I go to another room, and I clean something. I'm like, man, this bathroom mirror is so dirty. I clean that mirror. Then my brain is like, wow, I should clean the countertop too. Haha, I end up cleaning the whole countertop. And then when I sit back down, I'm like, what else can I clean up? My brain's in that little zone, and I start doing it. So that's my thing that I always do. I get up and I go clean something. Or even I brush one of my cats. I realized that trying to fight the procrastination directly by just staring at a thing and trying to get myself to do it never worked for me. So instead, I'd have to kickstart my brain into wanting to cross out. And the way to do it for me was always, go clean something. It's the only way it's ever worked for me, actually. Jesus Christ, you look tired? Well, that's rude to say. I feel great.